Hey, Diana, did you know that your competitors can make you rich?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
Welcome, everyone, to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. I'm Marc Whitehead, along with my fabulous Chief Operating Officer, Diana Berry. And today we're going to talk about B2B marketing. For those not in the know of that particular vernacular, we're talking business-to-business marketing. In our world, specifically to other professionals who we can establish referral relationships with. That may look like a lot of different things to different people. In our world, that primarily means creating relationships with other law firms, with other attorneys that can refer us business. Sometimes they're direct competitors. Sometimes they have practices that are adjacent to ours. Sometimes their practices are totally different from ours. Just kind of depends. Now, I know this can also, in a lot of people's worlds, this could mean other types of professionals as well. I know a lot of PI lawyers market to doctors, physical therapists, chiropractors, and the like. A lot of estate planning attorneys market to financial planners, to CPAs. The list could go on and on. But the gist of it is that in our world, that is one of our biggest marketing strategies, a B2B marketing campaign to other attorneys.
Have you always focused on attorneys as a referral source?
These days in our world as disability attorneys, it's pretty much exclusively attorneys. In a former lifetime when we did personal injury work, we did market heavily to doctors, tried to do some chiropractors, physical therapists, and the like. That doesn't quite work in the disability world, but I know it works in a lot of attorneys' worlds. We're in the process right now of trying to develop a new practice area in elder law. And I know a lot of elder law attorneys that really focus on developing relationships with financial planners, with CPAs. So it doesn't have to be attorneys when we're talking about B2B marketing. For us, that's kind of what it means. I think what kind of I want to get my audience to thinking about is kind of opening up your mind to the different possibilities of B2B marketing.
Yep. And you said, actually, one of the things that you said to me early on in my tenure here was that attorneys, particularly of your contemporaries, they let their referral sources die out, and they find that that's their business dries up correspondingly.
Right. And this is one of the problems I've noticed, as I get older, a lot of my contemporaries, or maybe lawyers that were slightly older than me that used to refer to me because I was the young up and coming lawyer, they've retired. Some of them have passed. Some have just moved on to other projects. So I think that's one of the things about B2B marketing is, there's no finish line, until the day you drop dead or decide to hang it up. You always have to be developing new referral sources because your old referral sources are going to constantly, start to wander over time, whether through age, retirement. Quite frankly, you may not be the new shiny thing anymore. Somebody else might have come in and usurped you as their go-to. So there's never a finish line. It is a continual journey. I don't know. I'm not going to go back into Miley Cyrus again,
Thank you.
But it's kind of it's a perpetual thing that you constantly have to be working on.
No, for sure. But despite all that, I do think that of our various marketing streams, which we've covered in other podcasts, it does tend to be the more sustainable or consistent or I don't know what that right adjective is there.
Well, it is the most consistent, and I think it is the most sustainable. Our other avenue is marketing to our client base, which we have a very substantial client base, probably over 20,000 people in our database. The problem with clients is, they're not legal focused, so they're not on the lookout for the type of clients that you are looking for. Our client base tends to be a little older. They don't get out as much. And again, they have the same issues. They retire, they pass. So while they are a good referral source that we actively market to, they're not quite as sustainable. If you're in your 30s and you meet another young professional in their 30s, you're going to have a 30-year relationship with that person if you do it correctly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a good, long, sustainable type of relationship. So I think attorney marketing for us, the B2B marketing, generally speaking, is probably what I would advise most lawyers to focus on, as their number one goal, because that is something that just can build over decades and decades and decades, to the point where, every day I get, 2, 3, sometimes 5. Some days I've had 10 emails in my inbox of people wanting to send me business. And that's a great feeling to know that, quite frankly, I don't have to go out there and spend a lot of money marketing to the masses if I don't want to, because I have that. And it's that great comfort level that you can have knowing that my phone is going to continue to ring with quality referrals. Of course, it's taken decades to get here. But what's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. What's the second best time? Today.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what do you want our listeners to take away about B2B marketing today?
So we're going to go through, and after the break, we're going to go through some particular marketing strategies that we use specifically on our B2B campaign. And these are things that we've developed over years. These are ideals that I've begged, borrowed, and stolen from other people along the way. And, I think the thing that I have to emphasize to most people when I coach my coaching clients about this is the long-term play. This does not happen overnight. You can work your tail off over the next 12 months and you will see some results, but the tangible results, the really serious results, you're going to start seeing, in a few years, in 5 years, and then in 10 years, and then it just starts to snowball. So it's the long play, but it's the right play.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like an exciting episode.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting, and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right. So, Diana, we're talking about B2B marketing, attorney marketing. I wrote an article in the Successful Barrister newsletter. Again, anybody that wants to get it on our printed newsletter, just hit me up with an email at marc@marcwhitehead.com. Marc spelled with a C. So I'm looking at an article that I wrote on this. I'm going to say it's almost a couple of years ago I wrote this article, but as everything I write is timeless. So I think the first thing is to recognize that you cannot market to a B2B referral network the same way you market to the rest of the world. You can't market it the same way that you do to your client database, the same way you would do it to the general public, say if you're doing any sort of digital marketing or TV advertising or anything like that. It's a different marketing campaign. It's a different strategy, different mindset. And that was really the genesis of the Successful Barrister newsletter. One of the things that we were trying to figure out was how, do we specifically market to other attorneys in a way that they would find interesting? Hence the development of the newsletter, which is all about, as we say, marketing management, life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. We don't write anything about disability or what we do, other than there's an ad in the back that says, hey, if you want to refer or something, send us. But we write about things that lawyers would actually be interested in and trying to do it in an interesting way. We do it in a very colorful, sort of snarky, sort of cutesy way that sometimes gets us in trouble. But it's developed over the years, and I've noticed that when the year that we cut back from 6 editions a year to 4, people started complaining. Mark, did I fall off your list? What happened? Why am I getting my barrister? So that led me to, the obvious conclusion. It must be working.
Yeah.
People really liked it. But the concept behind it was that we had to market to attorneys differently than we marketed to our client base. Hence, we have 2 separate newsletters. I would never send the Successful Barrister to my clients. That would be wrong.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, attorneys don't give a crap about the newsletter that I would send to my clients.
It is
different
a little
audience.
bit, different feel, different look, different everything.
So that was the first thing. It was sort of a shift in the mindset. I have to develop different marketing campaigns. So you have to think about B2B marketing differently. So the next thing we did was come up with what's the audience that we're going for. Now I will say I used to have a 3rd newsletter out there a long time ago that was
didn't know this.
That was directed specifically at the medical profession. This was back in the days when we did PI work, and I was hoping that it would bleed over in the disability world as well. So I had a separate newsletter that was directed specifically to the medical profession, had issues with regarding their world and how their world sort of collided with our world. Now, I didn't actually produce it. We used a third-party marketing company that produced that newsletter. Not only did they produce it, they actually came up with the list, because who do you send it to? We did that for a couple of years. I would say it was not terribly successful, but it was a shot. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is who are you going to market to? So we ultimately came to the conclusion that we gave up trying to market directly to doctors. We gave up trying to market to therapists, chiropractors, so forth. And because we looked at our results. What were our results? Our results were that our marketing to attorneys vastly, the return on investment was vastly greater than anything else we did. So that's like, all right, fine. Let's cut out all these little extras. Let's focus on that. So we decided our audience was going to be just attorneys. But you have to pick in what your own world is. What are you going to choose? If you're in the PI world, I know lots of PI attorneys that say they have great success marketing to other attorneys. Elder law, probate lawyers, great success marketing to CPAs, marketing to financial advisors, and so forth. But you just have to pick your lane. Where do you want to be? What's your audience going to look like? And then how do you go about developing that list? One of the great things I've done in my 30-something years is I've always collected names from day one, even before the days of Salesforce and the internet and all of this stuff. I've always done a great deal of collecting names. So I've kind of worked on that, building up a list of lawyers that I have a connection with.
So yeah, you're not buying your names, basically.
Not buying lists of names.
It's a very authentic way of just developing your relationships and continuing to stay top of mind with them.
But the real issue then is like, so what are you telling these people? Once you've kind of figured out your audience, what makes you special? What makes you stand out in the crowd? What's your niche? And that can be hard. We fortunately, have a niche in the disability world. I'm sort of known as the disability guy in the legal world in Houston, Texas. And of course, we're trying to branch that out further across the state of Texas, across the nation. But, back when I did car wrecks It was hard. Everybody does car wrecks. What kind of, that's not
Right.
a niche.
Yeah.
That's not a niche. You know, I've noticed that lately you go down the highway, the niche that they're trying to develop is truck accidents. You know,
Yeah.
there's every billboard out there doesn't say car wrecks anymore. They all say truck.
Like 18-wheeler accidents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. That is a niche. But if everybody's doing it, if everybody's saying it, I'm not sure how much of a niche that really is.
Well, so you're thinking about going into elder law. You just mentioned it. So how are you developing your niche there? Because
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure that I'm actually there yet in my head. Elder law is sort of adjacent to disability law because we're serving the same population. We're serving the population of older adults, and frequently people that are disabled. You know, as they over time, their issues kind of revolve or dissolve into elder law issues.
right.
So to us, it seems like a natural fit, sort of adjacent. What makes us unique in that field, I haven't quite worked that out yet. You know, we talked about the book Traction, and one of the keys in Traction, they say everybody, every professional should develop what they called their three uniques.
Yep.
What are your three uniques? One thing I did to try to make myself unique is I wrote a book. Actually, I've written several books on the topic. I've written a book on Social Security disability. I've written a book on long-term disability insurance. I've written a book on veterans' disability issues. I have a few more ancillary books and white papers that we've written. So that's one way to sort of develop your niche, is to actually write a book on the topic. You know, that kind of makes you the expert. I've written the book on the topic. I'm actually in the process right now of piecing together a book on elder law and Medicaid. That is still in the works. But you say, how am I going to make myself unique in this new field that we're expanding into? And that's one of the ways is to write on the topic, and not just write on the topic, but you know, send it out. So, for example, our Social Security disability book that we've written is called the Social Security Disability Puzzle: How to Put the Pieces Together. We self-publish that. If you do it in bulk and buy them in the hundreds or thousands, you can get the printing costs down. It's a paperback. You can get the printing costs down to about $2 to $3 per
Interesting.
copy.
Yeah.
Well, send that out to your list. Send a copy of that. I mean, you give somebody your business card, it gets thrown away. You give somebody a book, they may not read it, but they won't throw it away. They're going
Right.
to put it on their shelf, or they'll give it to somebody. It's like a business card, but on steroids.
Yeah. So I'm going back to a couple of things, or one of the strategies you mentioned a few minutes ago about building your list and grabbing business cards everywhere you went and developing those authentic relationships outside of the referral relationship. Would you say that there's like a baseline number of people you should have on your distribution list before you decide to commit to a newsletter type thing?
See,
Because if you're saying consistency is key, I mean, did you start with 6 successful barristers? But I mean, you always had attorneys to help you write it too. So
Yeah.
I guess it's not just you, but what about all the other people who were you maybe, 15, 20 years ago and kind of still trying to maybe stuck in that prison? So like the thought of creating 4 newsletters is daunting. And especially if I've only got 50 people who might, including my mom, who might want to read this newsletter.
So the barrister's 8 pages? You don't have to. You can do a 1-pager to start with. So let's assume you're straight out of law school. Let's start with that. All right. So how many people did you know from law school? There's your starting list.
Yeah.
So right there, let's say at U of H, we were in section. So my section had about 80 people in my section. I was section B, the best section.
Section C, and we are
Yeah. So whatever. So there's 80 people that I've spent the last 3 years with. 3 years. Plus the other people in the other sections. So add that up. Maybe now you've got a couple of hundred people that know your name that you've spent the last, 3 years with. There's your starting list right there. Okay. And these are people that presumably are going to be roughly your age and presumably are going to have about the same career span that you're going to have. So the next 30, 40 years, these are going to be your peers. So start right there. And then you work just adding off of that, just wherever you go. My mother's an attorney. Well, guess what? All of my mom's friends know me as Brenda's boy.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Hey, Mom, give me your address book. I need your address book.
Yeah.
And you just start writing down the list. Back in the day, she had a Rolodex. So I took her Rolodex and I started just copying out of her Rolodex. You know, like I'm going to get all of my mom's friends on my list.
And that gets you a whole different demographic.
Get you a whole different demographic. You just start from the get-go. You start getting involved in organizations. I get involved in the Houston Trial Lawyers Association. Well, guess what? There's a list of people.
Exactly. Especially if you do a committee or something like that. Get all your committee members on there.
Every time you go to some place, you're adding people to the list. These are all people that sort of know you. You have some contact with. You're not buying a list of attorneys, which you can do, by the way, and we have done, by the way. I will say it, not the most successful way to go about things. So to this point today, we have about 45 or 100 names or so on our list.
Cool. Yeah.
All of which, over my 30-something year career, I've had some contact with. Now we have our attorneys adding their contacts to that list. You are adding your contacts to that list. So it doesn't have to just be me.
Sure.
It could be anybody in the firm.
But is there a reason also why you went with a print copy versus like an I mean, because that's obviously much cheaper just to do an e-newsletter to your referral sources. So why'd you choose a hard copy that you mail out?
Okay, so first of all, it's not an either or, it's an and.
Okay.
You do both.
But the Successful Barrister doesn't go out electronically.
No, it does not.
It currently.
No, it does not.
But you have a website.
Yes. So printed versus email. Okay, so email you can do more frequently. You can cheaper. The problem is that your open rate is going to be pretty low. Most people, it's going to get stuck in a spam filter, junk. As a percentage, it doesn't do as well. A printed newsletter is more expensive. Generally speaking, I think we probably cost us roughly $1 a name. Mm-hmm. So $4,500
to print and mail.
Our producers tell them no, it's way more than that.
You're going to get a lot of calls about your marketing
let me just say this:
your print vendor.
It could be as cheap as $1 per if you self-produce. Say if you're going to do that 1-pager or that 2-pager that you're going to mail yourself, that you're going to mail out to your 100, 200 people list. This is when you're first starting out. Understand, I'm now putting out sort of an 8-page full-color magazine. Glossy. So yes, that's going to be more expensive, but you could get away as probably as cheap as about $1.
Very cool.
But people are going to notice the printed, especially today. People get less junk mail than they used to because, quite frankly, mail is out of fad because of the cost. Mm-hmm. So actually, quite frankly, in my opinion, a mailed printed newsletter is more effective today than it ever has been because it's not as common as it used to be.
Yeah, it's not stuck with the rest of the flyers and all the other stuff.
But you do need to make it stand out, whatever way you can.
Is that also what you do for your, I guess, what you call your superstars, right? I guess your best of the best referral sources? You stand out?
So we're talking about what I call, I borrow this phrase from many different publications. I will give shout out to Sean McNallis over at Atticus and her book, Rainmakers for Attorneys. She calls it the top 20 list. I don't think she's the one that originated that phrase. So in my mind, keeping a top 20 list. Now, top 20 is a euphemism for your best referral sources. Our top 20 list right now, I think, probably is in the neighborhood of about 200-ish. So understand, don't limit it to 20.
Yep.
What we're really talking about is your level 1 referral list. Maybe that's a better term. These are people that regularly and consistently refer you cases that you want to take. Okay? And this is the list, that you pay the most attention to. We give gifts to this group, I think, at least 3 times a year.
Yeah, I've talked about it on another podcast.
Yeah.
I think you like socks.
Socks are a good gift. There's lots of gifts out there you could give. Books.
But the theme stays the same of standing out, making sure that whether it's the Successful Barrister print or if you're giving kind of different gifts, not the same. I love a good Yeti cup. So any vendor that gives me a Yeti cup, I love it. I still use it. But, socks are going to definitely stand out from the rest of the crowd.
Yeah. So what we do is we gift like 3 times a year, roughly, and we try to do it at odd times. I think I mentioned this in a prior podcast, but we try to do it like somewhere around Valentine's or St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, and then maybe around Halloween. Times when people wouldn't normally be expecting to get gifts.
Right.
And that way they stand out from the crowd. So this can get expensive. So we don't do it for everybody. We don't do it for all 4,500 on our barrister mailing list. We do it for that top 20 list, that level 1 list, those consistent and steady referral sources.
So just to make sure that what you're calling a steady referral source, it's someone who sends you cases that you want, right? Like consistently. So it's both pieces of that. Just because you're sending me a whole bunch of PI cases, that's not necessarily, that's probably a bad example.
That's probably not a good example.
That's a really bad, we will still take those. Family law cases. It's not just that you're thinking of me, it's that you're thinking of me for the cases that I want.
Right.
Because we have some of those too. Disability is very niche. It's very it's esoteric. So
one of the things, you brought up an interesting point there, because one of the things you need to do is you need to make sure that you continually and regularly educate your referral sources on what sort of cases that you are looking for and what you can help with. This happens, so there's the concept that we used to use, and I used to be the whipping boy, and then as I got more experienced, we passed the whipping boy off to somebody else. And the phrase, when we talk about the whipping boy, is that young lawyer out there that's starting their own practice that will take anything.
Yeah.
And we all need that person is like you, because there's always this weird stuff that comes in that nobody wants to deal with, small claims court, JP court, just stuff that nobody... Who could we send that for? All right, who's the whipping boy right now? That's that young person that just started out their practice that will take anything. Mind you, that you don't want to stay the whipping boy
forever.
You want to develop that niche, and you want to become an expert in something and profitable in something. So what happens over time is you have to re-educate your referral sources. Originally, they might send you just anything, and you have to have that polite conversation with them saying, I appreciate this, but I no longer or never did take these kind of cases. This is what I'm actually looking for, and this is what I can help with. Because you want to elevate yourself. Where you begin in your practice is not where you want to end. You want to continually elevate and refine the image that you put out there, and that niche that you're promoting out there, that this is what I'm looking for.
Well, and Litify helps us track all of that stuff, right? So, and we've talked a little bit about Litify before, our case management software. It's very powerful, and it tracks every source for every one of our new intakes. For those that don't have such a powerful tool, just even a basic spreadsheet, right, of asking your new intakes, like the potential client's name, and then how'd you hear about us? And then if it's an attorney, then just making sure you're tracking that attorney's name or that other financial institution or whoever it is.
So one of the things that we've done is we've established a VIP referral lane.
Exactly.
And again, you have to educate the referral source. When you want to refer me a case, this is how I would like you to refer it to me.
Exactly.
So I had this happen a couple of years ago. A judge referred me his brother. And what the judge did was the judge just gave the brother our phone number, our mainline number.
Mainline.
And that brother called in to our main line, clearly had a case that did not fit our criteria. And so as our intake department is trained, they politely turned him down, and probably gave him a resource or something. Well, the next thing I know, I get a phone call from the judge. Mark, why'd you turn my brother down? I'm like, oh, crap. I didn't even know, because the brother never identified himself as, hey, I'm Judge so-and-so's brother.
Right.
That was sort of the impetus for me establishing the attorney VIP lane, which means that for my best referral sources, and that's pretty much all attorneys, I try to say, if you want to refer me a case, this is exactly how I want you to do it. in our case, what it is I want you to send me an email, and I want you to copy these two people. And one of them is Monique, one of my top intake specialists, and she is designated as the attorney VIP lane. So she's trained specifically on how to handle an attorney referral. So number one, that goes right to the top of the list. She calls them back immediately. She knows how to handle it. She does not turn that case down. She will accept it if it's a case that meets our criteria. If it's a case that doesn't meet our criteria, she will come to me personally and ask me, Mark, how would you like to handle this? Would you like to make, so giving me the option, maybe I want to make a phone call to that referral source and explain to them why we can't take it. Maybe I want to make an exception to our established criteria. Maybe I want to take that regardless because I just want to make the referral source happy.
Preserve the relationship.
Preserve the relationship. Or maybe I want to make a special introduction to maybe refer that case off to somebody that can handle it. Whatever it is, at least I get to make the choice, and it doesn't just happen to me like that situation with the judge happened. The other part of that is if we do accept the case, she is trained on specifically how to respond to that attorney referral source and how to give that person an update and continual updates on how the case is progressing.
Yep. And so another thing that we've done is make the VIP lane kind of a generic shared inbox. So now it's just like VIP@markwhitehead.com. So if anybody wants to send us any referrals, you can send them to VIP@markwhitehead.com.
Absolutely.
And then that way, if Monique, huge shout out to Monique, she's been a long time team member and I think sometimes actually listens to us.
I think she does. All right. So Monique, we love you.
We do.
You're awesome.
Very much. And so Monique takes very well-deserved vacations or just, inevitably gets sick or something. That way your leads don't just fall into one team member's inbox.
Oh, yeah. So the VIP lane definitely has a backup. Yes, absolutely.
Yep, that's a good thing. So, and what are we going to talk about in our next segment, Mark?
So we're going to talk a little bit more about developing the list and the different levels of the list. So we've talked about level 1, the top 20 list, but then you have other levels behind that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how to develop that.
This is Marc Whitehead, lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast. We have a blast making it and hope you find value in our podcast. If we stirred your juices, hit me up with an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Mark is spelled with a C. And get on the Successful Barrister newsletter mailing list. Even better, let's set up a call. I would love to talk to you about working together, talk shop, or just shoot the breeze.
All right, Diana. So we've talked about this quote unquote list that we've developed over time, which in our case is about 4,500 names. So I guess what I want to talk about is, especially for maybe the newer practitioner out there, how to actually develop that list and how to organize your list a little bit. Now, I know I've asked you. You've only been... Friday was your 4-year anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
4 years of spending time with me.
Yeah.
What bigger gift could I give you than that?
No comment.
Okay, fine. You should see the smirk on her face right now. So one of the things I mentioned to you, and I mentioned this to my other attorneys, is what?
Which contacts are we going to add to our list?
Yes.
Bring your list. I think it was bring your directory.
Yes.
And I was supposed to add in all my section people.
Right. So that was the first thing I said was you need to add your list of people to our overall list of people, and then hopefully, I don't know if we actually did it or not. My idea behind that was then maybe you could send an announcement out to them that you're now with our firm. Not quite sure if you did that.
I didn't.
I know, but see, that would be
It
a
was
tip.
a weird time.
A lost opportunity.
That's a great time. Yeah.
I was in the middle of COVID. I get it. But that was a lost opportunity, but we can make up for that. But so the point would be, the first thing, it doesn't have to necessarily be your list.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah.
So here's where I got a few. So I managed to get the list. And I shouldn't be saying this out publicly because I'm sure it's against the rules, but did it anyway. I managed to get the list of all the members of the Houston Trial Lawyers Association.
Oh.
Now, this was years ago. So at the time, we had 600 members. I think we have over 1,000 now.
Wow.
So I added into my list. Now, you might say, hey, Mark, you're just buying a list again. No, I was heavily involved. Actually, was about that time was vice president and then president of that organization. So all these people knew me. They may not know me directly, but I knew most of these people. I'd see them around. So, that was good enough. So, I added that list. On the board of directors of Texas Trial Lawyers Association. I've been a member of that group for almost 30 years. They actually publish a directory with everybody's name, address, and phone number in it.
Oh, really?
Yes. Now, it's all in print. Guess what we did?
Oh.
We shipped it off.
Oh, you had somebody.
To a vendor, and the vendor went and keyed all that information in.
Oh, that's horrible.
Right, I know, but you can farm this out. You don't have to do it yourself.
That makes sense.
So we added that list of people into our group. And again, most of those people know me or at least know of me. Again, I can think of several other organizations that I have done that.
So one of the main things, what you're saying is one of the main reasons for your success with your referral business is just you're constantly adding names.
Constantly adding names. You have to constantly be adding names. And, every defense attorney that I've ever had a case against, and I've always made a point to try to be nice to the other side. Mm-hmm. They're in that list, and yes, I get referrals from opposing counsel all the time.
No.
Let's see. I mentioned my mother's list of her friends, so you can co-opt other people's lists when you're adding to your list, but always be adding to the list until the day you hang it up or the day you die. Okay.
Yeah. What's another strategy that's been instrumental in your success with referrals?
Okay, so then now you have to segment the list. Okay, so we came up with the first part, the top 20 list, or what we call the level 1 list. These are your best, most consistent referral sources, the ones that you're spending most of your time and effort to maintain that relationship. You're gifting into that group, you're meeting with that group, you're having lunch with that group, you're calling them, whatever it is, sending up smoke signals to that group, whatever it is that you can keep in contact with. Then you have that second level. Mm-hmm. That second level out there, what I would call occasional referrals, that occasionally send you cases. Now, there could be some reasons for that. Why do they only send you stuff occasionally? Maybe they simply don't run across what you do very often.
Yeah.
Could be very valid reason. Maybe they're spreading their referrals out a little bit. Maybe they know several people that do what we do, and they're like sharing, one to you, one to you, one to you. And if you can identify those people, maybe you need to try a little bit harder with that person. Maybe you need to spend a little bit of extra time with that person,
nurturing
and move them up from the second tier list up to the first tier list. Then the third tier is that group of people at the bottom that know you, that might refer to you, might not, but those are the ones that you just want to keep top of mind awareness with. Those are the ones that you try to do things that you can automate, such as email newsletters, the Barrister newsletter. These are people you probably don't want to spend a whole lot of time, if any, of your personal time, because your personal time is very valuable. Right. That's the one precious thing that you can never get back, is your own personal time. So that's the group that you want to use mass marketing to. It's that middle tier is the tricky one that you have to think about, because you're trying to keep them at least where they're at, and you're trying to move them up to tier 1. So that's the group that you kind of have to pay a little attention to. So we still gift into that group, but maybe not as extensively. I still try to make contact with that group on a personal basis when I can. You're tend to be inviting those people to things. So we haven't done one lately, but we'll do happy hours and things like that, and you'll invite that group to your happy hour. And this is a side tip. When you have an event and you invite people, it's okay if they don't come.
They just want to know you're thinking.
Just the fact that you thought about it. I get more people apologizing that will take time and effort to apologize to me for not coming to my event because they had a conflict or something. I'm like, I don't mind that they didn't come. The fact that they knew and acknowledged me for the fact that I invited them, that's really all I was trying to get.
Sure.
I was just trying to get them to remember me. That's that kind of group where you're just always trying to ping into, but you're trying to elevate that second tier up into the first tier. One of the ways, besides, spending money, is spending a little time, using a little ingenuity, and trying to get them involved in other ways. Happy hours, social events. This might be the group that you mail your book to. So, for example, if I'm paying $2.50 for a copy of a book, so let's say, I don't know what the exact numbers are. Let's say that I've got maybe 500 to 1,000 people in that group. Maybe I mail them a copy of my book. A mass mailing to that group maybe once a year. So what does that cost me? $2.50 for the book, probably $2.50 for shipping, mail house, all that kind of stuff. $5. So I'm going to spend $5,000 to mail my book out to that group once a year.
Yeah.
That might be how you treat that second level of that they're trying to get into level 1, or at least keep them in the occasional referral list. That's the way I think I would look at it.
Well, these have been very helpful, Mark, to think about how our competitors and even opposing counsel can serve as referral sources.
And actually some of our best and most frequent referral sources are direct competitors, because you just can't take everything. There are just times when you can't take them. Either you're conflicted out, or there's a geography problem in it, or something like that. So never overlook your most direct competitors.
Great closing.
All right. So the last thing, never forget to say thank you. The thank you habit is supreme. And keep your referral sources updated about the referrals, so particularly if you're paying referral fees. Find a systematic way of keeping them updated. With that, I'm getting the high sign here that we're out of time. So with that, I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. Remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And if this episode was helpful, or if you know of somebody that you think it might be helpful.
If you want to send us your referrals.
Or if you want to send us a referral.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just conflated two ideas here right at the end. But make sure you share this podcast with people that you might find it useful. And if you got any referrals for Marc Whitehead Associates, our sponsor, contact us at mark@markwhitehead.com or visit us at disabilitydenials.com. And if you want to learn more about the podcast, we are at successfulbarrister.com. And with that, we're out of here.
Bye.